My mother's name was Catherine McGuire. We've been members of this church since 1962. Part of her belief that as a person of faith, especially as a woman of faith, that she needed to get out there and get something done.
There has always been a town gown split sort of in Denton. We didn't have full access to the rest of the city and all the things, the movie theaters and restaurants that everybody else was enjoying. We had this situation where the blacks had been undereducated. So when they integrated the schools and moved the kids over, it was so unfair to the students because they had no idea they were that far behind. They just thought they were in school like everybody else. There were a group of white people, mostly university people, faculty and faculty wives who were well-versed in education. So they set about coming over once or twice a week and tutoring students, and it was a blessing to us.
They could see that things were not right. And knowing that the schools were going to integrate, they thought, why don't we start with what we have in common and get church women together and just get to know each other.
Out of that was born the Women's Interracial Fellowship. We just did social kinds of things. We would meet at each other's houses. We would talk about things that were of issue, the good and bad. We talked about it all.
As they progressed and as they got to know the black women in the fellowship and got to be friends with them, it reinforced for them that we all want what's best for our children. We all want what's best for our families, which means education, jobs, a good place to live, etc. And what the white women discovered, which they didn't know, was how the black women were living.
The streets were unpaved, and when it rained, it was just god-awful. So Trudy Foster, who was quite a force of nature, Trudy was the one that came up with the idea of getting the streets paved.
And part of that led to also the birth of the Denton Christian Preschool. The Women's Interracial Fellowship took their own personal cars and picked up children and took them to Denton Christian Preschool and brought them back. And so it was the white women and the black women from the Interracial Fellowship who helped shepherd those children through the educational process all the way up through high school.
For the most part, some of the women in there truly were good friends, and they have stayed in touch with people to this day. I am still friends with them and with the husbands who are survivors. I think the legacy is that at least there were people out there who knew what was going on and what was wrong and spoke about it. And that was better than just having our voices like the lone voice in the wilderness crying out.
My parents would be supportive of so many things that are going on in this church today. My mother always dreamed of a better world. She always tried to find a way to express that faith in action. It's not enough to just say, I believe, or I love God, or God loves me. It's how do you show it, and how do you make the world a better place because of your faith. We still have racial prejudice, but there are other kinds of prejudices that we have. We definitely have economic, social, and cultural prejudices that we need to be conscious of and we need to work at eliminating, because that is not advancing God's kingdom.
What I think we need to do most is come together. That's the single one thing that could make us successful, is if we came together without regard for color and came together based on mutual interest and mutual desire to help or whatever. You just have to do it. Just a little effort, and what a wonderful world this could be.